I thought maybe I was holding the diaper bag wrong, because the moment I walked into Eli's room, something felt off. The air was too still. The mobile wasn't spinning. The blanket in his crib looked puffed, lumpy. My feet hesitated at the door, heart thudding harder with every silent second. And then I saw it. Just a sliver of glass peeking out from under his soft blue cover. I took a step closer. My body moved before my brain could stop it. I pulled the blanket back, expecting to find a toy, maybe a bottle he tossed over. Instead, I saw a row of liquor bottles, full, labeled, nestled against the mattress where my baby should have been sleeping. Whiskey, vodka, tequila. 4 deep, side by side like soldiers. I froze. My throat clenched. I tried to scream, but all I could do was gasp. I reached out to touch one. Cold, hard, real. My hands trembled. The scent of Eli's baby powder still lingered in the room, sickeningly sweet against the burn of alcohol. It was obscene, violent, like someone had carved open a sacred place and filled it with poison. His crib, the place where I sang lullabies and counted his breaths, where I kissed his forehead goodnight, where he laughed and kicked and gurgled in the mornings. That crib was supposed to be safety, sanctuary, and someone turned it into a storage bin for addiction. I dropped the diaper bag. It hit the floor with a thud that felt like thunder in my chest. My knees went weak. I grabbed the side of the crib to stay standing. I didn't even cry. I just kept repeating the same words in my head. No, no, no. This can't be real. Ben had said his cousin needed help. He just got out of rehab. He's got nowhere else to go, he told me. A few days, that's all. I said yes. Of course I said yes. Because I believed in second chances. Because I believed in him. I didn't know I was signing my baby's bed away to a man still drowning in liquor. I ran to the nursery closet. Opened it. Found more bottles stuffed between diapers, behind blankets, tucked into shoeboxes. There must have been 20. Maybe more. I checked under the changing table. More. My hands were shaking so violently I could barely pull things out. I was searching for Eli, for his scent, for proof he still existed in this room. He wasn't there. The playpen in the living room was empty. The car seat was gone. My heart seized in my chest. I screamed his name, once, twice, loud enough to rattle. The windows. That's when I heard footsteps. Calm. Steady. Coming down the hall like nothing was wrong. Ben appeared in the doorway, holding Eli casually on his hip, bottle in hand. Milk, not liquor. "Babe, what's going on?" he asked, like I wasn't standing in the middle of a nightmare. Like he didn't already know. I pointed at the crib, at the bottles, at everything. "What is this?" I asked, my voice raw, trembling. "What the hell is this?" My son's head rested against his shoulder, unaware, innocent, still safe, for now. I didn't take my eyes off Ben. He sighed, rolled his eyes. "I told you he needed help. He had nowhere to put his stuff. It's just temporary." As if stuffing alcohol into our child's crib was the same as borrowing a drawer, as if it made any kind of sense. "You put liquor where our baby sleeps," I said, slower this time, as if saying it aloud would make it less real. It didn't. My hands curled into fists, my vision blurred, not with tears, but with something colder, sharper. Fury. He shrugged. "It's not like the baby was in there." I felt something inside me crack. It was quiet, internal, but permanent. Because this wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't a mistake. This was a choice. And in that moment, I understood. I wasn't protecting my baby from a stranger's addiction. I was protecting him from his father's decisions. That's when everything changed. When I met Ben, I wasn't looking for forever. I was just looking for someone who made me feel like I mattered. He walked into my life with a crooked smile, a half-tucked shirt, and eyes that held just enough sadness to make me think I could save him. He made me laugh when I forgot how. Made me feel like maybe love wasn't supposed to be perfect, just persistent. He had stories about his rough childhood, a father who drank too much, a mother who cried too quietly. He told me he'd worked hard to be different, better. I believed him, because he looked like redemption. He smelled like safety. He made promises that felt soft in my hands. The drinking didn't start right away, at least not where I could see it. At first, it was occasional, just to unwind. A beer with dinner, a whiskey after a long day. But then came the stress, the job he hated, the car that broke down, the bills, always the bills, and suddenly the glass was never empty. Still, I stayed. I made excuses. He's tired. He's under pressure. It's just a phase. I told myself that love meant waiting, that loyalty meant holding space for someone else's healing, even when it came at the cost of your own. When I found out I was pregnant, he cried, said he'd do better, said this baby would change everything. For a while, I believed him. He got a new job, started coming home earlier, said no to drinks, at least when I was around. He kissed my belly every night and whispered, "I'll protect you both." I wanted to believe that fatherhood could fix the cracks he refused to face. We decorated the nursery together, painted it pale green, built the crib, hung stars from the ceiling. He held my hand during contractions, cut the cord. He cried when Eli took his first breath. I thought we were reborn that day, all three of us. But babies don't heal addictions. They reveal them. The late nights started again. He said he was just out with friends, said he needed space, needed rest, needed anything but responsibility. I found bottles hidden in the garage, in the laundry room, once under the driver's seat of his car. When I confronted him, he'd swear it was old, say it was nothing, make me feel crazy for even asking. But I kept forgiving, kept trying, because I didn't want to raise a child in a broken home, because I believed love was enough, because I remembered the man who used to dance in the kitchen with me and kiss my forehead like I was made of glass. And then came his cousin. Just for a few days, Ben said. He's trying to get clean. He needs us. I hesitated, but how could I say no to helping someone fight the same demons Ben swore he'd beaten? I set up the guest room, cleared a shelf in the fridge, said a silent prayer. I didn't realize then that it wasn't just his cousin who was back. It was all of it. The lying, the hiding, the excuses. I wanted to believe we were still a team, but I was the only one still playing. The red flags didn't come in waves. They came in whispers. Little things, easily dismissed. Like the way Ben stopped making eye contact during diaper changes, or how he always seemed to forget nighttime feedings, even when Eli's cries echoed through the walls. I started noticing how quickly he got irritated. Over nothing. A spilled bottle. A misplaced pacifier. He'd snap, then apologize too fast, like the words were rehearsed, like he wasn't sorry, just impatient. I told myself he was tired. So was I. Parenthood does that, right? But then the yucky lies started slipping through. He said he was running to the store for formula, came back with beer and no receipt, claimed he left the diaper bag at the park. I found it in the trunk with 2 empty bottles inside. Not baby bottles. Whiskey. Cheap. Hidden in a blanket. He told me his cousin was clean, that he just needed support. But I overheard them one night, laughing, slurring words behind a closed door. I heard the clink of glass, the unmistakable glug of a bottle being opened. I pressed my ear to the door and heard my name, followed by a laugh. Dismissive. Distant. I started watching Ben more closely, the way he staggered ever so slightly in the hallway, how he avoided holding Eli in the mornings. The scent of mouthwash so strong it made my eyes sting. I knew that smell. It wasn't hygiene. It was cover-up. When I brought it up, he flipped it, said I was too emotional. That motherhood was making me paranoid. He leaned into my postpartum exhaustion like it was a defense shield. Gaslighting wrapped in fake concern. "You need rest," he'd say, brushing my cheek. "You're spiraling." But I wasn't spiraling. I was waking up. Even Nancy, his mother, started commenting on my attitude. She said I was too critical, that Ben was trying his best, that men need space to adjust to fatherhood. I wanted to scream, "He's not adjusting, he's disappearing." Still, I didn't push too hard. I was afraid of what pushing would uncover, afraid of breaking what little structure we had left. So I softened my voice. I carried more than my share. I monitored everything, feeding times, nap schedules, bottle counts, bills. I kept telling myself, this is temporary, he'll come back. The man I married is still in there somewhere, but then I caught him asleep in Eli's nursery, passed out, on the floor. The bottle still in his hand. My baby crying in his bassinet, untouched. My heart broke in a way I didn't think was possible. And still, I cleaned it up, tucked him into bed, picked up the pieces. Again. Because that's what I'd been conditioned to do, until the day I found those bottles in Eli's crib, and the conditioning shattered. He stood there, holding Eli like nothing had happened, while I stared at the crib stuffed with liquor bottles. I didn't move. Couldn't. The image burned itself into my brain. Glass where innocence should be. He was calm. Smug. Like this. Was just another mess I'd clean up while he made excuses. "I told you, it's temporary," he said, rocking our son with one hand and gesturing to the crib with the other, like it wasn't filled with danger. Like it wasn't a goddamn crime scene. I didn't speak. Not at first. I walked over, took Eli gently from his arms. He squirmed, soft and warm against my chest, utterly unaware of the chaos around him. I held him tight and stepped back like I was putting a wall between us. Because I was. Ben reached for me. "Come on, don't make this into some huge..." My voice cracked. "You turned our son's crib into a liquor cabinet, Ben." He looked away. "It's not like he was in it." And there it was. That sentence shattered something. In me. Not like a scream or a slam, but like a clean snap. The kind you hear before you realize a bone is broken. It's not like he was in it. As if safety only mattered when someone was watching. As if intentions were enough. I laid Eli in the bassinet in our room, closed the door, walked back to Ben. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just stood in front of him and said, "You are not safe for him. Or for me." He laughed, bitter and defensive. "Oh, so now I'm a threat?" "No," I said. "You're a liability." He flinched. I told him to get out, that I needed time to think, that if he had any respect left, for me, for Eli, he'd leave before I made a phone call. That changed everything. He tried to play the victim, said I was overreacting, that it was his cousin's fault, that I was hormonal, that I always made things worse. He threw every gaslighting dart he could find, desperate to pin his shame onto me. But it didn't land. Because when I looked at him, now, I didn't see my husband. I saw a stranger who used our child's bed as a hiding place for addiction. A man who chose glass over flesh. And in that moment, I knew. I could never trust him again. After he left, I locked the door and double-checked every window. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. Eli slept in the bassinet beside my bed, and I sat on the floor, knees to my chest, staring at him like he might vanish if I blinked. I had never felt fear like that before. Not even during labor. Not even during the nights I cried alone, hoping Ben would come home sober. I kept seeing the bottles. The way they were nestled between stuffed animals and folded onesies. Like they belonged there. Like danger had made itself comfortable in the most sacred place I knew. Every time I closed my eyes, the image came back. I felt sick. I didn't sleep. Couldn't. I stayed up and made a list. What I had to do. What I needed to protect. I checked our finances. How much I could access alone. I reviewed Eli's pediatric appointments. I made a backup diaper bag. It felt like preparing for war. I called Rosa the next morning. My neighbor. My friend. The one person who never judged. I didn't say much, just, "Can you come over?" When she walked in and saw my face, she didn't ask questions. Just hugged me. I broke then. Completely. Through sobs, I told her everything. The bottles, the gaslighting, the way he minimized it all. How scared I was to leave, and more scared to stay. She didn't interrupt, just held my hand and said, "You're not crazy, and you're not alone." She helped me photograph everything, the bottles, the nursery, the hidden stashes. "You need this," she said, "just in case. Just in case he fights for custody. Just in case he twists it all. Just in case he decides to turn on me completely." I didn't want to believe he would. But the truth was, I didn't know what he'd do anymore. Nancy showed up that afternoon. She knocked like nothing had happened. Brought soup. Asked to see Eli. I stood in the doorway, body tense, guarding the threshold like a soldier. "Ben told me you overreacted," she said, her tone casual, condescending. I told her about the bottles. Her expression didn't change. "Addiction's complicated," she muttered. "You have to be patient." I wanted to scream, but I didn't. I simply said, "He put liquor in a baby's crib. If you can defend that, you're not welcome here." I closed the door, locked it again. Every click of the bolt felt like reclaiming breath. That night, I held Eli tighter than ever, whispered promises over his tiny head. "I will never let him hurt you. I will never let this happen again." Because the collapse had already begun, and now, all I could do was crawl out from under it, carrying my child in both arms. The next morning, I opened every drawer, every cabinet, every hidden crevice in that house. Not because I was paranoid, but because I needed to see it all, to know exactly how deep the rot had gone. I found bottles behind the toilet tank, beneath the couch, inside a cereal box. It was worse than I thought. I documented everything, labeled photos, dated them. Rosa helped me build a folder, just in case. "You need to think like a lawyer now," she said. "Protect yourself before he tries to spin this." The weight of that truth hit hard. I wasn't just a wife anymore. I was a witness. I called a family lawyer. Quietly, an initial consultation. I laid it all out, voice trembling. The bottles, the crib, the history. She didn't sound shocked. "You're not the first woman to come to me like this," she said. "But let's make sure you're the last woman he tries to control." That night, I went through Ben's phone records. We still shared a plan. I shouldn't have looked. But I did. Late-night calls, unfamiliar numbers. One repeated often, 3 a.m., 4 a.m., sometimes twice a night. When I traced it, I found her. A bartender, younger, blonder, not the cousin. He lied about everything. The cousin wasn't in recovery. He wasn't even family. Just another excuse. Another enabler. Another body that made his drinking look less like a problem and more like a party. I felt sick all over again. I called Nancy. Not out of hope, out of fury. I told her everything. Every bottle. Every lie. Every hidden call. Her response? "That's still your husband. You made vows." I laughed, cold. So did he. I hung up and blocked her number. That night, I went into Eli's room with fresh sheets and a trash bag. I stripped the crib, tossed the mattress. Every single object that had touched that glass went into the garbage. I scrubbed the wood until my fingers ached. I wasn't cleaning furniture. I was purging betrayal. Rosa stood in the doorway as I worked. "What now?" she asked softly. I looked at her and said, "Now I stop surviving him and start choosing us." Because the investigation was over, and the evidence was irrefutable. I didn't wait for him to come crawling back. I prepared for when he did. I contacted the lawyer again. We started the paperwork, emergency custody protections, documented endangerment, the photographs, the statements. I didn't want revenge. I wanted safety, clarity, control. Ben showed up 3 days later, smelling like apologies and stale bourbon. He knocked softly, like that would make it easier to forget. "Babe, can we talk?" he said through the door. I didn't answer, just opened the blind slightly so he could see me holding Eli, calm and firm. I opened the door just enough to speak. "There's nothing to talk about," I said. "Your things are in storage. I'll send the address. If you come back here without notice, I will call the police, and I will have proof." He laughed, the way abusers do when they realize their grip has slipped. "You're being dramatic." I met his eyes. "You put bottles in your child's crib. That's not drama. That's endangerment." His expression changed, briefly, like he understood the weight of what he'd done. But it didn't last. Denial was always louder than shame for him. "I was going through something. You were supposed to support me." "No. I was supposed to protect our son. And that's exactly what I'm doing." He tried to say more, but I closed the door, locked it. I watched him walk away, confused, furious, alone. And I didn't feel pity. I felt relief. The restraining order came next. Then the court date. He didn't fight as hard as I expected. Maybe because he knew I had everything. Or maybe because deep down, even he couldn't defend himself anymore. Nancy tried once more, sent a letter. "He's getting help. He misses his family." I didn't read past the second sentence. I lit it on fire in the kitchen sink and watched, the paper curl like the excuses I'd carried for too long. The justice wasn't loud. It was in the silence that followed. In the steady breath of my son sleeping peacefully. In the untouched crib. In the clean nursery. In the way I stood taller. Every time I didn't look back. People think justice looks like revenge. But for me, it looked like peace. I don't remember the exact moment things began to feel light again. But one morning, I woke up and noticed the silence wasn't terrifying anymore. It was comforting. Eli was babbling softly in his crib, sunlight warming the room. There were no bottles, no lies, just breath, just life. I started moving differently, slower, more present. I made coffee while humming lullabies. I folded his little clothes with care, not resentment. My body still ached, but it wasn't from fear. It was from rebuilding, from healing, from trying, this time, for us. I found a therapist. Rosa helped me set it up. I walked in with shaking hands and a breaking voice, and walked out feeling like someone had finally looked me in the eye. "You survived," she said. "But now we work on learning how to live." Eli started crawling, then laughing. He reached for me constantly, like I was the sun. And maybe to him, I was. The center of what was left, the anchor, the place where safety lived. I kissed his cheeks every morning and whispered, "I've got you. Always." I changed my number, closed joint accounts, filed everything in my name. I repainted the nursery, removed every item that ever touched that day. New crib, new sheets, new scent of lavender and fresh starts. It wasn't about pretending it hadn't happened. It was about claiming the space back. I stopped checking Ben's socials. I didn't care anymore. Whether he stayed in rehab or spiraled wasn't my story. My chapter had closed. The door was locked. And not every man deserves a redemption arc. Nancy never came back. I didn't expect her to. Some people will choose denial over accountability every time. I felt sorry for her, for all the things she was willing to ignore just to keep the illusion alive. Rosa and I grew closer. She became family in the realest sense. There in the middle of the night, at doctor visits, during quiet meals when I needed someone to say, "You're doing okay." And I was. The first time I laughed again, really laughed, was watching Eli eat a banana with both hands and smear it across his face like war paint. I laughed so hard I cried. Not from sadness, from release. From the realization that joy had room in my body again. I'm not the same woman I was before the crib. I'm sharper, softer, less patient with excuses, more fierce about boundaries. And when I walk into Eli's room now, I see him sleeping peacefully, safe, whole, loved, because my husband said they needed help. But I saw what he really needed, and I gave it to him. A door and a lock.